Good morning, students. In the last video we have discussed about pollutions, meaning of pollutions and different types of pollutions. So there we have learned about the pollution, which means the addition of something in the environment which has some detrimental effect on the environment as well as the living organism living on this earth. So this is mainly cause of high rate of energy consumption, ever growing population, reckless industrial expansion, indiscriminate use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides, herbicide, etc. So this is in order to achieve high agricultural output or maybe for ill conceived application of scientific invention. So this has been done to meet our immediate need without realizing the far-reaching harmful consequences. So this is what we have discussed in the previous classes. So today we are going to particularly focus on the sources of pollution, especially the noise pollution, air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution and radiation pollution. These are the 5 important types of pollutions about which we are going to study. About the sources we are going to study. Now our biosphere is directly dependent on the 3 important spheres. They are atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere for all kinds of requirement. So all form of pollutions like air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, noise pollution and radiation pollution are the result of exploitation of these resources to meet the human demands. So when we exploit atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere, so results into air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution or radiation pollution. So we will be studying one by one about all this, their sources. What are the sources of this? The sources of the different types of pollutions are broadly categorized into 2 types. They are considered as major source of pollution. They are natural source of pollution and man-made source of pollutions. Now the natural sources of pollutions are obviously it is natural in conditions, especially the volcanic eruptions, solar radiation, decay of the plants, certain animal excreta, forest fires are all the natural sources of pollutions which happens naturally in the environment. And man-made sources of pollution includes the industrial waste. All activities done by human beings results into pollutions like industrial activities or industrial waste, carbon dioxide emitted by burning various energy sources such as oil and coals, nuclear waste, agriculture residue, mining waste, construction waste are some of the man-made sources of pollution. So if you are asked in your examination, write the major source of pollution, then the major source of pollution can be categorized into 2 categories: natural source of pollution and man-made source of pollution. Now we'll be discussing about one by one. First we'll be discussing about the air pollution and its major sources. Now first source of air pollution is manufacturing activities, or this source is generated from manufacturing activities. Now this is just kind of uses of technological product, okay, which is the latest form of technology, okay. So due to which certain source of pollution is generated in the environment, okay, like from every industrial sectors it produces some amount of air pollutions or pollutants. Coming to next, that is transport sectors. Now transport sectors uses petroleum products. So on combustion of petroleum fuel in automobile, aeroplanes or any other kind of public vehicles produce several kind of primary pollutants like nitrogen oxide gases, hydrocarbons, carbon monoxide. So this kind of pollutants are generated from transport sectors. So large quantity of particulates, especially leads, is also produced in case of from transport sectors. So in the presence of sunlight, nitrous oxide or nitrogen oxide combines with hydrocarbon to form a secondary source of pollutant called the photochemical oxidant. Okay, so how it is produced? When sunlight reacts with nitrogen oxide, combines with the hydrocarbon, it forms a secondary pollutant which is also called the photochemical oxidant. Now nitrogen dioxide tints the air, blending with other contaminants and the atmospheric water vapor to produce brown smoke. So when nitrogen is combined with the air, nitrogen dioxide is combined with the air, it tries to blend with the mix with the other contaminants and makes the air brownish fog. So this is how transport sector generate pollutions. Now coming to next, burning of coal. So now burning of coal is kind of a very common form of common source of air pollution, which is very commonly used in the domestic as well as some in the industries for generating thermal powers. So even today coal is expensively used as an important source of energy in both the developing as well as the developed countries or nations. As per the report of the World Health Organization, that is in 2008 survey, the coal particulates pollution is estimated to shorten approximately 1 lakh lives annually worldwide. So coal is extensively used as a source of energy in coal-based thermal power plants. As I already told you, it is used in thermal power plant to generate energy, as well as railways and domestic fuels. So these are the sources from where the air pollutant is generated. Okay, now coming to moving on to the next point, that is household and farming chemicals. Now crop dusting, fumigating homes, insects and pest killers, fertilizers, dust, etc. are also greatly contributing to air pollutions. Now sometime we spray different types of chemicals in the crops, fumigates our homes, means spray our homes with chemicals even to kill insect and pest, and as well as uses fertilizers, and this dust becomes the main source of air pollutions. Apart from this, domestic appliances such as air conditioners, using of spray aerosols, refrigerators that also emit some form of chlorofluorocarbon CFC gases that will add to the air pollutions. Okay, then moving on to the next point, that is burning of waste in the dumping ground. Now this is very common in the urban areas, or a common phenomena in the urban areas, where the dumping is done here and there, and burning of all those dumped waste generates lots of pollutions. So this is due to the lack of space for its safe recycling and disposal. In many cities, the municipal authorities burn this waste in open dumping ground. So this also adds to the air pollutions. Okay, now the natural source, as mentioned above, natural source can be volcanic eruptions, forest fires also contribute to the air pollution. Sometimes explosive volcanic eruption can emit huge quantity of carbon dioxide, that is CO2, sulfur dioxide, SO2, hydrochloric acid, and different form of hydrogen fluorides, hydrogen sulfate, carbon monoxide. So different forms of gas are emitted during volcanic eruptions. So some of these gases are also transported away from the eruption site as particles and sprayed them as air pollutant far and wide. So volcanic eruption can also be the natural source of pollutants. Now apart from that, forest fire also generates lots of pollution. Then pollens, you know what is pollens? Small, these are the grains, small grains that suspend in the air. They migrate from one region to the another air. So small particles of pollens also forms the source of becomes the source of pollutant. Okay, now moving on to the next point or next slide, that is sources of water pollution. Now, sources of water pollution can be categorized into industrial waste, agricultural waste, sewage and domestic waste, oil spills, radioactive waste, offshore drilling waste, oil drilling waste, as well as thermal pollutants. Now, we'll be discussing about industrial waste. Now, all form of waste that is produced during the industrial productions, that is discharged into the water body or nearby water body, are termed as industrial waste. Okay, there is one example related to it. Okay, you see, it generates chlorides, sulfates, nitrates, heavy metals, etc. that are discharged into the nearby water bodies without treating it properly. So there is an example related to this particular industrial waste, that is Minamata disease in 1938, which is caused due to the release of liquid mercury, okay, which consists of methyl mercury in the Minamata Bay of Japan. Okay, so many people died due to this disease. Subsequent consequences of this pollutant on human health is one of the best example of this context. So there can be any other form of diseases that is also caused due to the industrial waste. Coming to next, that is agricultural sectors. Now from agriculture sectors, whatever the pollutants comes, they are drained into the water, nearby water bodies. Okay, like chemical fertilizer, we use chemical fertilizers in agriculture for increasing the fertility. To kill the insect and pest, we use insecticide and pesticides, and this excesses insecticides and pesticide flow into the water and water systems and contaminates the water and affect the aquatic animals living there. Okay, and also disrupt, and it also comes to the food chain of it comes into the food chain and affect the human body as well. Okay, so the other source of water pollutant is sewage and domestic waste. Now sewage and domestic waste are very common, which is basically seen in the urban areas, okay, which are densely populated. So all form of domestic waste, such as all biodegradable waste, including human excrement or chemical waste from soaps and detergents. This too not only pollutes our water bodies, but it also reduces oxygen level in it, often causing large scale death of the marine lives. Okay, so this can be the the main source of sewage or domestic waste causing water pollution. Now coming to next, that is oil spills. Regarding oil spill, I have already discussed in the previous video. Accidental spillage of the oil in the oceans or in any form of water body is termed as spillage of oil. Okay, so this does not happen on regular basis, but such occasions like tragic cause irreparable and long-term damage to our environment. Such occasional tragedies cause irreparable and long-term damage to our environment by killing various form of aquatic life and polluting the ocean water. Okay, now moving on to the next point, that is radioactive waste. Now radioactive substances that are used in nuclear power plants, industries, medical sectors, and any other scientific processes. If it is not properly disposed, this radioactive waste in water can result into various incident of water pollutions. Okay, now offshore oil drilling. Now offshore offshore oil drilling and manufacturing permanently alter ocean floor habitats. So you know what is offshore oil drilling? Okay, oil station or refining station is far away from the coastal region, that may be 100 kilometer or 180 kilometer far away from the coastal areas, where a fixed station is there from where the oil is extracted continuously. So during this process, the extra fluid or the leakage from these extracting pipes, okay, contaminates the habitats, ocean habitats, or the bottom of the sea floor. The sea water often gets contaminated with drilling fluid used to lubricate and regulate the pressure in drilling operations. So this fluid contains petroleum product and heavy metals. The contaminated sediments strewn on the ocean floor are carried by the ocean current over a long distance, affecting large area. So there is a great danger of constant oil spillage at oil rings, even if they are in a small quantity. Okay, so this is how the offshore oil drilling is responsible for water pollution. Now moving on to the next point, that is thermal pollution. Now thermal pollution, thermal related to the hot water. Okay, generally most of the industries uses water to cool the machineries, and after cooling the machineries, the hot water is generated from the industries, okay, and that is directly discharged into the nearby water bodies. This will increase the amount of increase the temperature of the nearby streams, so that may have a detrimental effect to the aquatic animal living in the water. So that is excessive warm water not only reduce the plant life in them, but also reduces the oxygen level in the water. So as a result, it may lead to large scale death of aquatic lives. Okay, now moving on to the next point, that is sources of soil pollution. Now sources of soil pollution can be acid rain. Now apart from its numerous indirect effect on the soil quality, acid rain leaches many of the existing nutrients, or it will wash away many of the existing soil nutrients from the soil. So the number of essential microorganisms in the soil also decreases, because this acid rain will try to kill all those microorganisms of this soil. Thus it makes the soil less fertile. So acid rain also makes the soil more acidic, thus further depleted the amount of nutrients available in the plants. In short, we can say that acid rain can render this fertility of the soil, render the fertile soil less fertile, or make the fertile soil less fertile. As a result, it can reduce its productivity. Okay, moving on to the next point, that is industrial waste. So we have discussed about acid rain. Now industrial waste. So large quantity of unwanted industrial waste generated during the manufacturing process is dumped into the open land by almost all industries. So larger the industrial base, or larger the production base, larger is the generation of the waste. So traditionally these materials are dumped around the factory site. Such waste is rarely put to the recycling or the safe conversions. So this will ultimately generate waste and cause pollution. Now next point we have, that is commercial and domestic waste. Commercial and domestic waste. Now this include both biodegradable as well as non-biodegradable. So due to the accumulation of non-biodegradable waste, large area of land becomes useless and unavailable for any productive economic activities. So next point we have, that is excessive use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides and herbicides. So we can also say it is in this way, it is an agricultural waste. So agricultural waste as we have already discussed in the previous video regarding the water pollution, so agricultural waste can be insecticide, pesticides, or a kind of herbicides are used. So this uses of this kind of chemicals in the soil, for a short term it will increase the fertility of the soil, but for a long period of time it will reduce the quality of the soil. Okay, it will kill the microorganism living in it, and also have a detrimental effect on the soil habitats. Now vegetation and fruits grow on over fertilized soil are more prone to attack by the insect and diseases. Okay, so if we are using insecticide and pesticides to grow more, then it also have a side effect that it will attacked it is affected it is affected by the insecticide and pesticide insects and diseases more. Now coming to next point, that is sources of noise pollution. Now noise we have already discussed in the previous class, that is unwanted sound that make you discomfort, disgust, okay, may make you stress, irritations are termed as noise pollutions. So this noise, excessive noise, can disrupt our activities or balance of human or animal life. So which are the sources from where this noise pollution is generated, especially the transport sectors? This include noise produced by railways, road vehicles, aircraft, ships, and mechanized boats. So while almost irritating part of the noise pollution generated by road and railways is honking, and the noise generated by the aircrafts while landing and taking off is unbearable. Now studies have proved that the most of the people are exposed to noise from transport sector, making transport sector the single largest source of noise pollution. This is as per the studies. Okay, now there are the other sectors, that is manufacturing sectors. Now noise is also generated from the manufacturing sectors, especially the during the power generation, during product generations, during product fabrications, during product assembly, during product processing. So during all these processes, some sort of noise is generated. So this is what we categorize as manufacturing sectors. So noise generated from the manufacturing sectors. Okay, moving on to the next point, that is consumer products. Okay, now construction activities, especially constructing this type of noise are generated nearby the construction sites, used for fabrications, excretions, modifications, demolitions, or removing of any kind of structures. These are related to digging of the land, clearing, preparing flooring, and other interior work, etc. So this also generates some sort of noise and cause noise pollutions, and may become the source of noise pollutions. Now consumer product, especially the music systems, televisions, food blenders, vacuum cleaners, washing machines, air conditioners, refrigerators, etc., are some of the constant source of noise pollutions at home. So this generates a kind of noise in our homes, in our localities especially. Okay, now we'll be discussing about sources of radiation pollution. Now sources of radiation pollution is studied in two topics: natural source of radiation and man-made source of radiation. So man-made source of radiation is further classified into 5 categories, that is nuclear power plant, nuclear weapons, mining of the radioactive minerals, X-rays, poor and ineffective technologies to the nuclear waste. Okay, so generally scientists estimated that about 80% of the radiation we are exposed to comes from the natural sources. So although they are most common source of radiation, they do not bother us so much as the man-made source of radiation creates concern. So generally the radiation that is generated by the humans are more effective than the natural source of radiation. Okay, so we'll be discussing about the natural source of radiation now. Excuse me. Radiant energy from the sun. So sun is the main or the chief source of natural radiation. Okay, the energy radiated from the solar surface or the sun surface is in the form of cosmic rays, ultraviolet rays, gamma rays that reaches the outer atmosphere. There is a protective layer called ozone layer which protect this, which block this or this, which filters these rays before reaching the surface of the earth and pose less danger to the human health. Therefore, the natural source of radiation do not pose much threat to the mankind, whereas the man-made source cause more effective threat to the humans. So we'll be discussing one by one about it. Now, nuclear power plants. Now, waste can be generated from the nuclear power plants. When the waste is generated by this plant is not safely disposed of, it causes pollution in the form of radioactivities. So the nuclear power plant has the waste that is generated from the nuclear power plant has to be disposed properly, or else it will generate some sort of radioactive waste that is more detrimental, has a more detrimental effect on the human health. Now coming to next, that is nuclear power plant, nuclear weapons. During the testing of the nuclear weapons, okay, which is there is a best example for this is that is Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So during those time, during the Second World War, the testing was done. Now it still has a detrimental effect on the people of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The child born on that particular region are still born disabled. Okay, now it means that the radiation that is generated during that particular Second World War, in that particular time period, still has effect on the present generation. That means it has a very, you can just figure it out how long term effect it has. Okay, now moving on to the next one, that is mining of the radioactive materials. So during the mining process, mining of the radioactive materials such as uranium result in the exposure of the humans and environment to the radioactive waste. So once if we go for mining, if we start mining, it also generates some sort of radiation, okay, which is has a significant impact on the health of humans as well as the animals. Now X-rays. Now X-ray technology is used to diagnose various type of diseases, like diagnose our alignments, like orthopedic disorders. Okay, now anyone who is continuous exposure to this high energy rays can have a internal damage to the organs, to the human being or human bodies. Now lastly we have that is poor ineffective technology to nuclear waste. Now the decaying process of the radioactive waste take very long time. Some radioactive waste substance have a life of more than 10,000 years. So it may take time of 10,000 years to decay that radioactive waste. So thus even after burning or disposing them properly, small amount of radiation is always there to affect human or to affect man in long run. So these were some of the sources of radioactive sources of radiation pollution. Okay, so the other topic we'll be discussing in the next class, that is the next topic will be effect of pollutions. We'll be discussing in the next video. Thank you.